We will begin momentarily. For those joining us virtually, take the time to choose your preferred language by clicking on Interpretation at the bottom of your screen. Speakers will alternate between English and French throughout the event. You can listen to the simultaneous translation by clicking on your preferred language. Nous allons commencer dans un instant. Pour ceux et celles qui participent en ligne, prenez le temps de sélectionner la langue de présentation de votre choix en cliquant sur « Interprétation » inscrit au bas de votre écran. Je passe maintenant la parole à notre vice-présidente des communications mondiales, Jennifer Johnson. I now turn the meeting over to our Vice President of Global Communications, Jennifer Johnson. Jennifer?
Good morning, good afternoon, bonjour, et bon tard. It's a pleasure to host another special event for all Domtar employees following last October's launch of our new brand and culture. Today, we're here to celebrate one of the most significant outcomes of our ongoing integration efforts, Domtar's new sustainability strategy. This builds on the recent finalization of our sustainability policy and marks a major milestone in our journey. Now it's time to turn our policy into action. The strategy that we're launching today will be embedded in our daily operations across the company. Its development was led by our sustainability team with deep involvement from operational and subject matter experts across our business units. Far more people contributed to this work than could fit here in the room in Montreal, but we have a strong cross-section of the many people who played a key role, and you'll be introduced to many of them today. I'd like to give a special welcome to John Williams, our non-executive chairman of the Management Board. John also chairs the Global Sustainability Steering Committee, underscoring just how critical this strategy is to our future. We're joined virtually by employees across all our business units, including teams in North America, Fiber Excellence, and Paper Excellence Brazil. A warm welcome to all of you, especially those joining at a late hour. The strategy is global in nature, so it's fitting that we have this wide representation. While today's unveiling focuses on metrics and targets for Canadian and U.S. operations, the three core pillars and overarching objectives will serve as a foundation for our sister companies as they develop their own roadmaps. We're also welcoming a small number of customers and other stakeholders who have taken a keen interest in our sustainability efforts, including involvement in our consultation process. Thank you for being a part of this milestone. We will have a Q&A session later in the event. For those who are joining on Zoom, you can submit your questions online using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. The Q&A session is intended for employees, and external participants are invited to forward any questions to their usual Domtar contacts. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that here in Montreal, we are on the traditional lands of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Huron-Wendat. At Domtar, we recognize and respect the cultural and social significance of land, water, and forests to Indigenous peoples, and we share a common interest in ensuring that these traditional territories continue to provide for cultural, environmental, and economic needs for generations to come. Finally, a quick housekeeping note. If you're here in person, please take a moment to silence your cell phone and take note of the nearest emergency exit. With that, I'll hand it over to Sabrina DeBronco, our Global Chief Sustainability Officer, who will take us through the next part of today's program.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good morning, good afternoon, bonjour, and boa tarde, everyone. Today, we've reached the single most important milestone in my time as Chief Sustainability Officer here at Domtar. After a tremendous company-wide effort extending back over some 2 years, we are ready to commit publicly to a range of carefully selected sustainability objectives and targets. We can all be very proud of this milestone, although I want to stress that it's certainly not a finish line. Our new sustainability strategy is designed to build on the achievements of our legacy companies and to map out a pathway towards further progress. Let me tell you a little bit about how all of this took shape. There were 3 key steps in our process. The first, we self-assessed, looking closely at the performance of our legacy companies to date. We assessed the many strengths and best practices that we can leverage across the new Domtar, and also the weaknesses that we need to better address going forward. We identified and prioritized the sustainability-related risks and opportunities that matter most to our global business success. Second, and this was critical, we looked outside the company. We reached out to customers, representatives from our operating communities, non-governmental organizations, certifying bodies, and many other stakeholders, as well as to indigenous partners. We asked them to identify the sustainability-related impacts of our business that matter most to them, and over 500 individual representatives gave us invaluable input throughout a survey. And we dug deeper through interviews with nearly 100 stakeholders, representatives. This helped us to better understand interests, concerns, and goals. In combination with the views of employees, this means that our strategy is truly stakeholder-driven. And as any good sustainability strategy should be. And third, we measured our strategy against well-recognized external guidance and standards. We looked in particular at reporting standards, including emerging regulatory requirements, and at ways in which we can increase transparency and access to our performance data. We took into account a specific performance measurement and target setting standards that we may want to align with. We also looked closely at best practices on the part of our competitors and leading performers in other sectors. All of that helped us focus on where our sustainability efforts can have the greatest impact and led to a basic framework that you may already be familiar with. It consists of 3 pillars and guiding principles which are also embedded in our global sustainability policy: environmental stewardship, our people and communities, and responsible business. The corporate sustainability team then worked very closely with subject matter experts across our 3 business units to arrive at measurable objectives and to link them to specific time-limited targets. Operational involvement in this process helped ensure that targets strike a balance between ambition and achievability. It was also consistent with the fact that sustainability is not a silo or an add-on at Domtar. It's something that, as our sustainability policy says, we place at the heart of everything we do. Stakeholder outreach and feedback has continued throughout the process of building our new sustainability strategy. Our strategy is also aligned with the United Nations widely endorsed Sustainable Development Goals. The selection and pursuit of our corporate objectives are driven in part by this important global call to action. Finally, we have set up a robust governance framework to monitor and track our progress. We have a global sustainability steering committee, which provides strategic oversight from the management board and senior leadership levels. The sustainability team will steward the strategy in partnership with our business unit sustainability committees. These are cross-functional groups of leaders and subject matter experts who played a key role in setting our current targets and who will help set new annual targets as we move forward. I cannot thank them enough for their commitment to all this process. All of that rolls up into what we are unveiling today: 12 objectives that span our 3 sustainability pillars. For each objective, we build out multiple measures and develop short and midterm performance targets. We continue to assess additional objectives, but we are ready to go public now with a comprehensive set of 2030 targets. We are going to have a variety of materials on our website and our intranet, Planet, that will overview and explain the strategy, including a video series we'll roll out over the coming weeks. And here's a little taste of that now.
At Domtar, we have developed an integrated strategy that puts sustainability at the heart of everything we do. Focused on 3 pillars: environmental stewardship, our people and communities, and responsible business, we're building a sustainable future on the foundation of 12 concrete objectives and concise targets for 2030. Our sustainability strategy is ambitious, rigorous, and transparent, enabling us all to grow together. We are the fiber for the future, And this strategy is part of our roadmap to becoming the global leader in forest products.
And in case it's not obvious from the tone of my comments, let me say that I'm tremendously proud of the strategy we are launching today. And considering the strong history of all our legacy companies, I can say with confidence that Domtar is moving onward and upward while being firmly rooted in sustainability. We couldn't have achieved this without excellent support and engagement at all levels of the organization, starting with our owner, Jackson Vijaya. And that engagement extended to the management board and senior leaders on our Global Sustainability Steering Committee, meaning our strategy was approved and endorsed at the highest level. I'd also like to personally thank my team and a lot of other great leaders and other people from all the business units who've worked so hard to make this strategy a reality. Muito obrigada, which means thank you so much in my language. So what we are going to do now is have 3 brief panel presentations, one for each of the pillars of our strategy. Each will be led by a BU president and feature the perspectives of several subject matter experts. Presenters will be speaking in English and French. So to start, I'll ask Luc Terrier, President, Wood Products, to come forward with his panelists to begin this next segment.
Thank you, Sabrina, and good day, everybody. I'm happy to kick off our more detailed overview of the sustainability strategy, and I'm especially pleased to be joined by several talented colleagues to help me do that. Before we dive into the environmental stewardship pillar, I want to emphasize something critical. This strategy isn't just a corporate initiative. It's our collective commitment to a sustainable future. As leader of one of Domtar business unit, I personally stand behind every aspect of this work. And our entire executive team is fully committed to driving meaningful changes. Looking at environmental stewardship specifically, in today's world, our stakeholder and partner across all sectors are rightfully focused on environmental impact. For our natural resources company like ours, the scrutiny isn't just expected, it is essential. Our environmental performance must be exemplary, which is why this pillar is fundamental to our strategy. Our guiding principle is clear: to steward the planet's resources responsibly by striving to reduce the environmental footprint of our everyday operation and setting actionable objectives that positively impact nature and the environment. This pillar is focused on sustainable forest management and fiber sourcing, generating positive biodiversity impacts, decarbonizing our operation and value chain, and reinforcing our water resilience. We have 3 presenters here with a great depth of knowledge, on the 4 objectives under this pillar. And they are going to share some of their personal perspective on it. Our first objective is as follows: advance our commitment to sustainable forest management across Domtar value chain for all wood and fiber. Etienne Vizina is Vice President of Forestry and Certification. Etienne, could you please take a couple of minutes to describe the importance of this objective and what we're targeting by 2030?
For this objective in particular, we will aim to provide assurance to our stakeholders with a particular focus on our customers that the fiber we're using in the processing of our products comes from sustainable sources. In other words, the strategy aims to include the 3 pillars of sustainable development: our economic, environmental, and social commitments in our day-to-day planning. At Domtar, we are fortunate to have a number of strengths in this area, particularly in terms of certification. As a leader in sustainable forest management and traceability certification, all our forestry and processing sites are already certified. So we're going to be able to rely on our certifications to keep moving forward. In the United States, we'll also be paying particular attention to the wood sources that come mainly from private forests. Many small private landowners supply the bulk of our mills. So we're delighted to be able to work with them and count on their enthusiasm for sustainable development in forest management. One of Domtar's most successful examples is the Forest States Timberland Owners Association, a group of small landowners in 4 American states who have been certified with the help of the company to supply our mills in certified fiber and so sell to our customers a product bearing sustainable development certification as endorsed by our strategy. Of course, we'll also be working with governments, which are key players in the implementation of laws and regulations, particularly in Canada. And all this we're going to do to meet the fundamental needs of today and of our strategy, but with a view to 2030 to continuing to improve, particularly in R&D, to constantly increase our capabilities in terms of sustainable forest management.
That certainly helped us see the forest from the trees. I didn't write that one. And closely related is our second objective under this pillar, to positively impact biodiversity through our forests, fiber supply chain, and operational footprint. Quentin Edward is Chief Forester in our Pulp and Paper Tissue Business Unit and Chair of the Pulp, Tissue, and Wood Product Sustainability Committee. Would you please share some of your perspective?
Perfect. Thanks, Luc. So as Etienne said, this objective around biodiversity looks at sustainable forest management, but it also goes further to understand that our facilities and our operations can impact biodiversity, but can do so in a positive way. So as a company, we're going to continue to focus on positive biodiversity outcomes at our operations. Some examples where we're already doing this is our Howe Sound Pulp and Paper Mill, working with the Sunshine Coast Salmonid Society, hosting tanks and rearing Chinook salmon at the site. Our Port Alberni facility is regulating water flows on the Stamp River to support salmon spawning and migration. Our Gatineau facility turned one of their parking lots into a community green space. And our Calhoun facility promoted a nature pathway along the Hawassi River. We also have a partnership with the Nature Conservancy of Canada that saw a land transfer and management. And of course, being a forester, I can't forget our fellow foresters out there and the extensive work that they do throughout our operations to conserve and protect biodiversity, but also support our operations. Ultimately, at the end of this, by 2030, our target is to ensure that all of our operations and operations that have risks in areas with high biodiversity values have action plans in place, and that those plans are put in place within 1 year of completing the relevant assessments. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Quentin, for taking us through this actionable objective that positively impact nature. Moving on to our third environmental stewardship objective, this one is relating to carbon and climate. Our objective here is to decarbonize, I get those complicated words, our operations, products, and value chain by leveraging renewable, sustainable, fossil-free resources and efficient manufacturing process. Brian Kozlowski is the Senior Director, Environment and Sustainability and Chair of the Paper and Packaging Sustainability Committee. Brian, would you please tell us how this objective fits into the strategy?
Absolutely, Luc. Thanks. So with this objective, we're already building upon the impressive work that we've done in terms of reducing greenhouse gas emissions in our operations, our products, and our value chains. In fact, at Domtar, our operations have reduced greenhouse gas emissions by approximately 1/3 since 2015 already, and we're here to do more. So with this initiative, it'll require a continued focus on energy efficiency in our operations. It'll include a focus on how we generate steam and electricity in our operations. It'll include additional renewable energy opportunities on top of the already high use of renewable energy that we already do at about 70% of the energy used in our operations. And then working together with other value chain partners, we will continue to look for opportunities to further decarbonize our operations. With the policy landscape recently relating to climate action, while it has shifted in recent months, our customers and other stakeholders continue to tell us that they care about the carbon footprint of our products. And it matters to them, and it should matter to Domtar too, and it does, and which is why this is a big focus of our sustainability agenda. Carbon pricing programs in Canada, carbon border adjustment mechanisms in the European Union lead us to believe that it's not that we need to continue to keep our foot on the gas when it comes to climate, this issue, because it's imperative for us to remain competitive and relevant. We will continue to build on the long-term established reductions that we have done with our emissions in our manufacturing operations, and we're going to be shifting to doing more to decarbonize our value chain. By next year, we will set a new set of corporate greenhouse gas reduction targets encompassing all three of our scopes, with Scope 1 being the direct emissions from our operations, Scope 2 being the indirect emissions from purchased electricity and steam, and Scope 3 being all the other indirect emissions upstream and downstream in our value chain. And we'll also be determining the appropriate year which will achieve this target, but it'll be no later than 2035. So with the focus on emission reductions over the past 2 decades, a lot of the low-hanging carbon reduction work has been completed, but now we are going to intend to set additional targets to further stretch and even do more. Thanks, Luke.
Thank you, Brian. Focusing on decarbonization certainly builds on the impressive achievement of our legacy companies. Well done. So now we move on to our final objective under our environmental pillar, the equally crucial question of water. Our objective in this regard is to improve the water resiliency of our manufacturing operation by reducing water-related risk and impact. And I will ask Brian to walk us through.
Right. So water resilience really is our ability to withstand operational disruptions in our water supply in an increasingly volatile world we hear more and more about. And it's really the heart of this objective. In fact, it's the heart. You'll hear the term resiliency over and over as a theme throughout our sustainability strategy. More specifically, when it comes to water resilience, it's really our ability to operate our manufacturing units in times of more frequent and more intense weather events and patterns such as flooding and droughts and changes in water quality that are elicited by land use changes and the activities of others who operate upstream of our mills. Water is essential to making pulp, paper, and wood products, and it's a shared resource that we do not take for granted and lightly. While our manufacturing operations use a lot of water to make our products, we return more than 90% of it back to the original water source after we clean it up and treat it. We understand the need to conserve water, and we also understand the imperative to avoid negative impacts to aquatic life and habitat in the rivers and streams we operate on, and also the need to engage into the communities and with other user groups in these watersheds. So in order to execute the strategy, it's twofold. First and foremost, it's focused on water conservation. We've established a 2030 target to reduce the amount of water used per unit of product that we make in our paper and packaging business unit relative to a 2020 baseline. Second, and similar to our biodiversity objective, our target is to ensure that all of our manufacturing facilities that use water have risk mitigation plans in place and will do so within 1 year of completing the relevant assessments. So as you heard, we've got a good balance here of really understanding and improving our understanding of the risks in our diverse watersheds that we operate, as well as the actual reductions in water use, both of which are imperative and designed to improve our water resiliency.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Let's just say that you blew it out of the water. Many thanks to our panelists for those great insight. We've got a lot more to get through. So I would quickly make way to our next panel. I will turn it over to Richard Tremblay, President, Pulp and Tissue, to lead us through.
Thank you, Luc, and hello to everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you here in Montreal today. As we turn to the Our People and Communities pillar, I want to emphasize the profound importance this area holds for our entire leadership team. It represents the heart of who we are as an organization and the legacy we want to build together. Let's dig into what makes this pillar unique. It's fundamentally about interdependencies and creating mutual value through meaningful collaboration. The strength of these relationships directly impacts our successes as a business. Put another way, we can only succeed as a company if our communities, employees, and other partners are sharing in that success. This isn't just good ethics, it's good business. Every executive on our leadership team recognizes that our future depends on how well we nurture these critical relationships today. So, the guiding principle captures this commitment to contribute to prosperity and quality of life in our operating communities through trusted partnerships, thoughtful engagement, and support for the well-being and development of our employees in a safe and inclusive workplace. And this pillar encompasses our human relationships, including employee safety, indigenous partnerships, community investments, and the employee experience and talent development. While we establish corporate targets and initiatives, the power of this pillar comes from each individual's daily actions and decisions. Whether you're interacting with community members, supporting a colleague's development, or taking steps to ensure workplace safety, you're bringing this strategy to life. I personally commit to championing these priorities, and I ask each of you to join me in making them your own. For this pillar, we have 4 presenters with a tremendous volume of expertise. And our first objective under this pillar is a fundamentally important one that has driven our legacy companies for several years. Aspire to reduce employee injuries to zero by enforcing a proactive safety program and culture. So I'll start by asking Sébastien Richard, Vice President, Human Resources, Pulp, Tissue, and Wood Products, to briefly elaborate on the importance of this objective and to talk about what we're targeting by 2030.
Thank you, Richard. So, safety first is a fundamental commitment for the company. It means that every employee who comes to work for us has the right to a safe working environment, the right to return home to his or her family in the evening in full physical integrity. What does this mean in our manufacturing environment? Well, it means that we must proactively identify and control each and every risk present in our workplaces, and at the same time, ensure that a culture of safety is present within our organizations and that it will endure over time. Next year, what we're going to make sure we do is that we're going to change the way we measure, and we will focus on injuries or risks of injuries that can cause death or a serious injury, or have the potential to cause death or serious injury. These are improved proactive measures in the industry that enable us to continue our improvement. And what we're aiming for by 2030 is an injury-free workplace. To be able to offer that to each and every one of our employees. It's an ambitious goal, but our strategy and our commitment are aligned towards it. And each and every one of our employees deserves that we make the effort to get there. Thank you, Richard.
Excellent. Thank you, Sébastien. We always put safety first at Domtar. Now, from here, we'll move into the area of deepening our Indigenous engagement and partnerships. Our objective is to foster relationships with Indigenous communities built on trust, mutual benefit, and long-term resilience. To speak to that, I'd like to invite Etienne back to the podium as he's a member of our Indigenous Relations Steering Committee. He's already here, by the way. Etienne, would you please share some thoughts about this important topic?
Thank you, Richard. For this objective of the Sustainable Development Strategy, as a company and a corporate citizen, it's first and foremost a moral imperative. So it's a role we must support. And we're already doing so in the regions. And it's a concern that continues to grow over the years. On that topic, as a member of the Internal Aboriginal Committee, that we're just in the process of finalizing our corporate policy on relations with Indigenous peoples, which will be posted on our social networks soon. So stay tuned, it's coming soon. We also have performance measures to gauge with the Sustainable Development Strategy, and it may seem difficult in a social context to establish KPIs. So it may seem difficult to identify performance measures on where we're starting from today and what we're aiming for in 2030. We already have good relationships with the Indigenous communities we are doing business with. So it's a matter of developing these business relationships and employment opportunities and continuing to grow them. In the same vein, we're also aiming to train all of you, our internal stakeholders, our resources, our workforce, and train all of you about Indigenous realities and culture so that you can fully understand where the perspectives from that side come from, and so that you can see how we also integrate that into our forest management perspectives and eventually into the corporate decisions that will be made. In addition to all this, we're going to rely once again on our business partnerships, on our ties with Indigenous people to create new opportunities, to develop our relationships with the peoples we already do business with, and then our employees. So, all of you here today, our existing Indigenous partners, and the communities that we're working with. We want to create an environment in which we feel listened to, people feel respected and heard. So we want to enhance those links through our strategy of sustainable development. That's one of the pillars we'll have at that level, Richard.
Thank you, Etienne. I want to emphasize that fostering meaningful Indigenous partnerships is a strategic priority that has the full backing of our executive team and board of directors. Moving now to our community engagement initiatives, we have an objective to enhance our community engagement programs focusing on employee volunteerism and financial support for education, sustainability, and humanitarian needs. I invite Ariane Laboissonnière, our manager of ESG risk management and disclosure, to share with us some more context on this objective.
I'm going to do in English to balance out the crowd today. So essentially, our community engagement objective builds on some really well-established legacies. So historically at Domtar, we have a fantastic community engagement setting in everything that we do. And community investments are essentially the funds that we provide to help support objectives and activities in and around our operating areas. And we already do stuff like this. So if you think about our operations local donations budget, for instance, or our safety award, it's very paralleled with this. And we really contribute to these worthwhile and meaningful activities in and around our operating areas. So from things like the Boys and Girls Club to local food banks, for instance, we support financial objectives essentially that are in our area, and we focus on 3 specific pillars. So that's education, sustainability, as well as humanitarian needs. And based on our annual commitment of at least contributing $4 million a year, we have, over the next 5 years, a total target of finances or financing of $20 million USD. So that's enough to make a pretty significant impact in the quality of life across the many communities where we operate, where we live, where we work, and have fun, essentially. And by sometime next year, we actually set a concrete target to help further structure and further establish what does it mean to have employee volunteering at Domtar. And as part of our monitoring progress, we want to make sure that we can track and essentially count all of our volunteer hours that our employees contribute towards things like community causes, environmental initiatives, as well as other charitable activities. And consistent with the focus in our sustainability strategy on maximizing impact, our approach is really to generate positive education, sustainability, and of course, humanitarian outcomes.
Thank you, Ariane. The breadth of our engagement shows how fundamentally important our operating communities are to this company's sustainability journey. Now, we conclude our people and communities pillar with an objective focused on the working experience at Domtar and the development of our employees. Our aim is to strengthen the employee experience by fostering an environment where everyone is inspired to build their career and fulfill the company's purpose. We've asked Marie-Ève Roy, Director of Talent and Organizational Development, to help us better understand the significance of this objective. Marie-Ève.
Thank you, Richard. This is a very important pillar. Domtar is officially committed to supporting all our employees. It's part of our values. Domtar needs a workforce that is strong, that is committed to ensure long-term success. So what we really want is to create a work environment where everyone wants to advance their career and support the organization's mission. So by focusing on learning, growth, positive employee experience, we're not only going to improve our retention rate, we're actually going to improve the performance of our employees and maintain our position in the markets. So it's a very important pillar. And we have some clearly identified targets. 2025 is going to be our reference year for retention and turnover rates. In 2026, we're going to roll out an organization-wide engagement survey to identify the factors that influence employee experience and then create a strategy based on these factors and a specific action plan too. Then by 2030, we want to diversify the opportunities for growth and development for the identified feeder groups. We also want to implement a risk mitigation strategy for our critical roles. So it's a pillar that not only supports the employee experience, but it's also a pillar that supports the resilience and prosperity of the organization to ensure long-term success and to be able to face future challenges.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. That's an ambitious and very impactful set of objectives. And now we'll do our final quick change-up here at the front, and I'll ask Steve Henry, President, Paper and Packaging, to help us take us through the final pillar of our strategy.
All right. Thank you, Richard. Such a pleasure to be here today. Now let's turn to our responsible business pillar, a cornerstone of our sustainability strategy that I'm particularly passionate about. Within this pillar, we've thoughtfully grouped together several critical elements that directly impact our license to operate and our long-term success. The common thread connecting these elements is the rapidly evolving stakeholder expectations regarding how we conduct and grow our business. Companies are being held to ever higher standards in terms of ethics of their conduct and the effectiveness with which they pursue innovation and collaboration. I want to emphasize that these practices aren't merely compliance checkboxes or nice-to-haves. They represent both the right thing to do and the smart business decision, since they contribute to improved resilience. So we see this as an opportunity to distinguish ourselves in the marketplace and strengthen our business foundation. Our executive team firmly believes that ethical business practices and innovation directly contribute to our resilience and long-term prosperity. This isn't just my personal conviction, it's embedded in how we make decisions at every level of the organization. Our guiding principle captures this commitment to uphold ethical and sustainable business practices and engage with our customers, business partners, and stakeholders honestly and transparently. And more specifically under this pillar, we're dealing with 4 crucial themes: ethical and sustainable leadership, innovating in our operations and products, ensuring our human rights are respected in our value chain, and making ourselves accountable for actions we take. I'm joined by 4 presenters who will each take us through an objective, beginning with David Marshall, Vice President of Sustainability Governance and Reporting, who will speak to our leadership objective. It is to ensure ethical and sustainable leadership practice by upholding our global code of conducts in ethics, sustainability process or policy, and internationally recognized reporting standards. David, would you talk a bit why this objective matters and what where we're targeting to be by 2030?
Great, thanks, Steve. The performance on this objective is all about, partly complying with our internal codes and policies, and partly aligning our sustainability reporting with internationally recognized standards. So to be a leader in terms of our sustainability reporting. Thankfully, our legacy companies have positioned us very well on this front by having robust internal mechanisms in place that are already positioning Domtar to be among the global leaders. By setting these targets, we are integrating them into our strategy. It goes to show to our customers and stakeholders that we are ready to meet the challenges of an ever-changing landscape in the sustainability ESG world. And so that's where we begin, by setting those targets. I want to say by 2030, it's to align our sustainability reporting with leading international reporting standards like the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Initiative, the directive, I should say, that's in place in Europe, and other leading international standards as well. In addition to that, completing an annual integrated CDP report for our forest, climate, and water disclosures, and that would be for Domtar and the companies under our control. One consolidated global report. CDP is among the most comprehensive collection of environmental data systems in the world, and we are already disclosing our data to them. So by setting these targets, we are providing the assurance to our customers and stakeholders that we're ready to take on the challenge, and in our eyes, this will be a demonstration to them that we've got the gold star label in terms of our sustainability reporting for as far as transparency and accountability are concerned. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, David. I'm very pleased to see the bold steps we're taking as a company. Moving on to our second objective under this pillar, we're aiming to derive sustainability through product, process, and value chain innovation while focusing on delivering measurable environmental and business value while advancing circular solutions. Virginie Chambost, Vice President, Innovation for Sustainability and Climate, is here to provide an overview of this objective.
Thank you, Steve.
Merci, Steve. Hello, everyone. Innovation is a cornerstone of our sustainable development strategy. It's also essential to Domtar's future growth. It's not just about developing technologies or products, it's also about integrating sustainability into our practices and the way we innovate, in our operations, in our value chain, and in our business model as well. Innovation has been an integral part of our journey for a long time, drawing on the rich expertise of our predecessor companies who invested in innovative solutions ranging from forest management to the development of new products, such as revolutionary stretch papers. It's a heritage we're all proud of and one we're going to build on. In the short term, we will be assessing the extent to which our capital and R&D investments are contributing to our sustainable development objectives. Working with our business units and teams, we're building on the winning practices already in place at our predecessor companies to define a consistent approach for Domtar. Our goal for 2030 is to ensure that our increasing proportion of our investments in innovation directly advance our sustainability objectives beyond our base year of 2025. This goal reflects our ambition to make sustainability a key pillar of innovation at Domtar. To track this progress, we will use a set of key performance indicators to encourage accountability across our business units. Our innovation initiatives must help us decarbonize our operations, make our resources more efficient, and also create long-term value for our company and our communities.
Positioning ourselves for the future will be key to our success, and we know that you and your team are key advocates. That takes us to our human rights objective, an area where there's been tremendous shift over the last few years. and we're taking action accordingly with a commitment to safeguard the people in our value chain by ensuring the respect of human rights and labor standards, safe working conditions, and no abuse of any type, including child and forced labor. We want to invite Sandra Grudeau, Vice President of Legal Affairs Wood Products, to elaborate for us on this objective and the work we're planning to do to make it a reality.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve. Good afternoon, everyone. So now let's talk about another element that cannot be ignored, human rights. We don't always think about it in countries like Canada or the United States, but if you look at the value chain, it's worth thinking about it a little bit more. In our facilities, we have long been committed to protecting human rights. But to tackle this issue more broadly, we're going to build on the comprehensive due diligence processes that already exist at Domtar, such as the periodic assessments of some of our suppliers, or the requirements that require us to certify that they comply with laws that prohibit slavery or human trafficking. These processes we already have in place put us in an excellent position with regard to recent and forthcoming regulations. We have also defined a hierarchy of indicators, such as a number of complaints received on our ethics hotline or the human rights training offered to value chain employees. Our goal for 2030 is to ensure compliance with the global human rights policy we intend to put in place by next year, which will build on our previous policies. We also aim to carry out human rights assessments in all the regions in which we operate and in their value chains.
Thank you, Sandra. We've built our reputation by upholding ethical and sustainable business practices and ensuring we're accountable for our actions, which brings us to our fourth objective, under which our responsible business pillar and the 12th and final objective today we're unveiling. This one relates to partnerships and accountability, and that's a great note to wrap up our overview of the strategy. The objective is to advance shared goals, enhance resilience, and build mutual trust in collaboration with customers, academia, NGOs, and other key partners. We're going to bring Paige Goff, Vice President of Sustainability, Strategic Partnerships, and Engagement, to speak to this one. Paige, you've been so instrumental in ensuring our accountability is at the core of Domtar's approach to sustainability. Would you tell us more about it?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, I'm not as young as I used to be, so let's get this one. First and foremost, we cannot achieve these goals alone. We need partners to ask us questions, play devil's advocates, and make us better. We have had conversations where we may not always agree, but we have accountability, we have transparency to come to a win-win resolution. To provide a couple of examples about partnerships, we have one with American Forest Foundation to improve biodiversity initiatives and Nature Conservancy of Canada to provide research on conservation lands to help determine improvements for the future. Lastly, it is important that we align our goals to help support our customers' goals. They need to know that we are taking the right approach for the environment, and sustainability is a part of our DNA. We want them to be proud to do business with Domtar. Having outside perspectives is critical to our success, and we must have strong partnerships to make this happen. So as we move forward, and as I conclude, it is a pleasure to wrap up our strategy overview on this topic. So this is a broad objective, going to the goals we share and the outcomes we pursue jointly with some of our key stakeholders and collaborators. We've already engaged in a number of high-impact projects that we're pursuing jointly with NGOs and others. Certainly, our legacy companies have had a strong track record of this type, and we've been moving forward down this path as the new Domtar. To cite just one example, we recently announced a major funding commitment to First 30 by 30 Canada, which will support Indigenous-led conservation and biodiversity programs. That links to multiple objectives in our strategy. We're looking forward to grow the number of partnerships and projects of this type that we will engage in over time. As an interim target, we'll have at least 2 new high-impact partnerships in place by this time next year. We are also going to develop a survey methodology for measuring trust levels on the part of our key stakeholders and partners. We'll take a baseline measure in the weeks ahead and then do regular check-ins to ensure we're trending upwards by 2030. There's perhaps no better overarching measure of the success of our strategy as a whole than the degree of trust that we will earn. Effective partnerships and accountability are indispensable in building that trust. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Paige, Virginie, Sandra, David, and all the others for your invaluable contributions, not only to this presentation, but especially for the hard work that's necessary to reach today's milestone. This sustainability strategy represents not just our corporate ambitions, but our collective commitment to responsible business practices that will benefit our communities, our environment, and our long-term success. I want to express my sincere gratitude to all the teams from different areas who've engaged in this work, and I extend my appreciation in advance to everyone who will join us on this journey as we work together to achieve these ambitious targets. Now I'll hand the floor back to Jennifer. Thank you.
Thank you to all the subject matter experts we've heard from in this segment of the program. We appreciate you being here today for the launch. We've given you all a lot to absorb, and we're grateful for your attention. It's now my pleasure to turn the podium over to John Williams for some brief comments on what's ahead for here.
The token short presenter. So thank you, Jennifer. Thank you to Sabrina and team, and thank you to everyone who contributed to the sustainability strategy we're launching today. I've been watching its development closely, as I know our owner has been, and I'm confident, as I know Jackson is, that this strategy reflects the ambition and the rigor that you all set out to achieve. And now that we've gone public with it, it's for our customers, communities, and many other partners and stakeholders to judge its quality. And, as you've heard, we're going to provide the transparency they need to do that on an informed and ongoing basis. But for my part, I can say I'm impressed, and proud. We've had a great overview today of the strategy and its structure, and some good insights on its importance. I'd like to add, if I may, 3 thoughts of my own. First, this strategy is essential to our success going forward. None of us need reminding that we live in turbulent times. From natural disasters to geopolitics, nothing is as calm or as predictable as we were used to even just a few years ago. And what that requires of all of us, individuals, communities, companies, you name it, is resilience. In other words, an ability to adapt and to succeed even in the face of fast change and often daunting challenges. In fact, to my mind, when we talk about sustainability, resilience is really what we often have in mind. And at Domtar, we can create resiliency, to cite just a few examples, through operating in ways that safeguard healthy ecosystems, through strong relations with the communities with whose success ours is entwined, and through forward-looking and collaborative approaches to business, including investment in product innovation and indigenous-led procurement. Second, this strategy is going to be dynamic and evolving. We will absolutely follow through on the commitments we've made today. But we'll also continue to learn as we go, to course correct as we may need to, and to refine our strategy over time. And the systematic stakeholder engagement that this strategy was built on will be maintained, so that as the views and priorities of our partners and stakeholders change and adapt, so too do we. As you've heard some of our presenters acknowledge, we have not locked down the specific scope of the improvement we'll work towards by 2030 relative to all our objectives. We've provided as much detail as we reasonably can at this point in time, but the reality is that we're still in the early phases of operational integration across our 3 legacy businesses. This creates challenges in defining baselines for many important metrics which we're continuing to navigate. We have nevertheless committed to measures, and we will fill in missing targets as soon as we have greater clarity on our starting points. And finally, and maybe most importantly, this strategy is yours to own and implement. The resources will be there to pursue our objectives, and we will all need to find ways to contribute. We'll be working in the weeks and months ahead to expand opportunities for employee engagement in implementation. That begins with a steady rollout of additional information to help build a clear, shared understanding of the direction we're headed. We'll also be expanding sustainability-related professional development modules. Luke, if you thought you had difficult things to say, that was a triumph. And creating more learning opportunities. In parallel, we're exploring new ways to accelerate collaboration across the business through leader networks and by elevating and better leveraging our many internal subject matter experts. So the course is laid out in front of us, and I'm confident in the pace we've set. Again, my thanks and congratulations. To me, this strategy is one of the most important ways in which we in Domtar are embodying what it means to be the fibre for the future. We're going to open the floor for questions now, and Jennifer, I'll hand it over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. And yes, we'll be happy to take your questions now. We have our sustainability team here ready to provide answers, as well as the full lineup of subject matter experts you heard from earlier. So this is a great opportunity to dive deeper. As noted, this Q&A portion of our program is intended for employees, and external participants are invited to forward their questions to their usual Domtar contacts. Let's start with questions from those of you here in Montreal. If you have something to ask, just raise your hand, and Human or Jordan will bring you a mic. One of our first questions. Okay, great.
Hi. I'm just curious to know what made this moment the most appropriate time to launch this strategy.
Thanks for your question. Actually, we had a big challenge when we started this all this project because we were just starting the integration of the 3 legacy companies. But then our first thought was, oh, let's wait a little bit so that we can integrate and then we can come back and start it again. But then we realized that the best thing to do is to use this opportunity to put everyone together, to align ourselves, our objectives, our proposed, so that we could start doing something together as a group. And this is why it was the right moment, but took more time than we expected just because of the integration. And also because a new standard came, a lot of new standards and new things related to sustainability. But then we need to not stop, but we need to consider the new standards and do more work to be able to launch something robust and following all the new guidance and the gold standards. So this is why we are doing this right now, and it's a very good moment to start. It's a beginning and not the end of the. We are launching this now. For us, it's a kind of end for this process, but then we will start a new process now to implement all this strategy. Thank you.
Do we have others in the room? Okay, let's turn to our virtual audience. If you haven't already submitted a question, you can do so now by clicking Q&A, the button at the bottom of your screen. We'll have a few of those read out so our experts in the room can respond.
No questions at this time.
Oh, okay. We answered everything. Okay, great.
Oh, we just got one. Jennifer, one just came in.
Okay, great.
What is the most challenging target for you? Oh.
I think Virginia.
Well, I'm not sure. I think everyone has, like every pillar has his own.
Please use the podium mic, the podium microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you for the question. I think it's a tricky one because I think every pillar has its own level of challenges behind. I think that, as Sabrina mentioned, the integration is certainly something we want to build on, and we want to recognize what has already been done internally and recognize the best practices and build on top, not reinvent the wheel. So I think this is the most important challenge for the three of us, and Sabrina to lead that, certainly in terms of making sure that we build on existing but add value and make sure so we get the engagement internally to do that as a whole as Domtar.
Okay, well, thank you. We did answer all the questions. Well, we're just at the end of our time together, so I'm going to wrap up the Q&A. Thank you for those of you who wrote in and for the question in the room. We want to make sure that if you have further and follow-up questions that you know to reach out anytime to sustainability@domtar.com or durabilité@domtar.com if you have questions about the strategy or what it means for your work. A couple of quick thoughts from a communications perspective. The video teaser shared earlier is just part of the various materials now or soon to be live on both domtar.com and Planet, where you can explore our sustainability strategy in more detail. You've also heard today about how transparency and regular updates, how important they are to our approach. Beyond formal reporting through platforms like CDP, EcoVadis, Corporate Nights, we'll keep you informed through all of our internal and external channels. And yes, Sabrina and her team are already hard at work preparing Domtar's first sustainability report under our new brand. So that brings us to the end of today's program. I hope you're walking away with the same sense of pride and momentum that's been here in this room and on the screen all day. This strategy is a major milestone for all of us, and as John said, it's essential to building the resilience our future depends on. A recording of today's event will be posted shortly. If you have colleagues who were unable to attend live, please encourage them to catch up when they can. Once again, thank you everyone for joining us, and remember, nous sommes la fibre de l'avenir, solide, fiable et durable. We are the fiber for the future, strong, reliable, and sustainable. Thank you, everyone.